Number 10. Even Paul Heyman wouldn't believe Brock Lesnar's next target on Raw. Paul Heyman reveals that Brock Lesnar will conquer Shane McMahon next. Presumably, Brock Lesnar will defeat Bill Goldberg at Survivor Series. This would enable WWE to set up a scenario that is must-win at WrestleMania 33. In the Last Chance Saloon, Goldberg would have to triumph on what could be his final match. Conversely, Lesnar would be on a roll. Looking utterly dominant, the Beast would be in a bullish mood come Monday Night Raw. Looking to capitalize on the momentum of his client, Paul Heyman says not even he knows who Brock wants to challenge. Cocky himself, Heyman says it doesn't matter because Lesnar can take any wrestler in WWE today. Grabbing the microphone, Brock himself says something that shocks Heyman. Sending out a challenge to Shane McMahon, Lesnar leaves his advocate open-mouthed. Fresh in Heyman's mind is SummerSlam, where Shane was left laying after an F5. Reluctantly, Heyman would get behind his man. Although warming up to the idea, he'd warn that Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon probably wouldn't want to promote such an inter-brand match so soon after Survivor Series. Further, Steph likely wouldn't want to see her brother conquered and hospitalized. Number 9. Cedric Alexander defeats Brian Kendrick. Simply moving the entire Cruiserweight division over to SmackDown Live wouldn't solve the main issue WWE have with the High Flyers. Specifically, the creative team just haven't got going with the division yet. Forced to introduce a shed load of talent, there's been little time to properly develop characters who aren't the Brian Kendrick. Raw needs to change that, and it's high time others were allowed to show some personality. Undoubtedly, one of the most promising faces amongst the cruiserweights is Cedric Alexander. He'd be able to put Kendrick in his place, with the heel being arrogant and dismissive following his win over Kalisto at Survivor Series. Throwing out an open challenge to anybody, Kendrick takes his eye off the ball when Alexander answers the call. Cleanly beating the veteran, Cedric then takes the microphone and says it's time for someone fans can get behind to lead the WWE Cruiserweight scene. Displaying a modicum of arrogance himself, Alexander doesn't need to be all giddy about winning. Instead, he's focused and desperately wants the WWE Cruiserweight title. Number 8. Sheamus and Cesaro claim the New Day had dominated for far too long. It makes sense to imagine that Sheamus and Cesaro will get in the way of one another at Survivor Series. There's even a possibility that the Irishman will abandon the match entirely, leaving the door open for Xavier Woods of the New Day to fill his slot. Alternatively, what if Sheamus and Cesaro shine as a unit during the Team Raw vs Team SmackDown tag battle? For the first time, both men could realize the value of working together as a well-oiled machine, rather than being at loggerheads. This doesn't mean that Cesaro needs to be heel, he'd merely recognize just how talented Sheamus is. In a backstage promo, the pair would state that they are willing to really give this team idea a shot and put their arguments behind them. Turning their attention to New Day, Sheamus and Cesaro say that they can agree on one thing, that the reigning Raw Tag Team Champs had dominated for too long. This segment would come shortly after an announcement from the commentary team that the duo will team up with Jericho to take on Seth Rollins and New Day in the main event. Number 7. Rusev hammers Darren Young. Quite honestly, a match such as this would exist only to keep Rusev on Monday Night Raw. Since seeing his program with Roman Reigns come to an end, the Bulgarian Brute has once again been cast aside by the WWE creative team. That's a shame, because he has the potential to enter the main event scene if used properly. Sadly, slots are limited right now. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho are the main heels on Raw. Reigns is also likely to move on to other challenges before WrestleMania, leaving Rusev without much of a purpose on the show. There are certainly worse suggestions than to keep him ticking along with a few victories. Darren Young's alliance with Bob Backlund is ripe for exploitation when it comes to Rusev. Tearing down the legend, Lana and her man remark that Backlund is everything that's wrong with WWE. An American fool, the WWE Hall of Fame inductee is a true embarrassment. This riles Young, who ultimately comes up short in his quest to avenge Backlund. Winning with the accolade, Rusev looks fired up and motivated. Number 6. Nia Jax defeats Alicia Fox and makes a major title proposal. It's unclear exactly what WWE's brain trust have in mind for WrestleMania 33 when it comes to the women on Raw. There's a fair chance that someone like Bayley will have her big moment on the promotion's largest stage, although that's getting just a little too far ahead. Roadblock is first on the agenda for Raw. Booking another Charlotte Flair vs Sasha Banks doesn't seem right. That duo need a breather from singles action for a while following Hell in a Cell. Therefore, why not shunt some others into the situation and propose a bumper female affair for Raw's next pay-per-view? It's only a matter of time before Nia Jax gets a crack at the Raw Women's title individually. For now though, she should defeat Alicia Fox in devastating fashion and then outline her idea for Roadblock. Not mincing her words, Nia says that she wants to defeat everybody on that show. Instead of going after just Charlotte, Jax wants to win the title by toppling Sasha Banks and Bayley too. As she has ousted Fox from contention, Raw's most physical female wants a fatal four-way showdown at Roadblock. Number 5. Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens celebrate winning for Raw in party mode. Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens are out next on Raw to celebrate what happened at Survivor Series. Keeping co-strong should be paramount on the show currently, and Jericho is a key of that. Together as a unit, there are few more entertaining heels in WWE than Jericho. Should Owens and Jericho be the last ones left in the ring following the huge Team Raw vs Team SmackDown match at Survivor Series, they would want to brag about it. Pointing out that the likes of Edge Styles and Dean Ambrose couldn't stop themselves from arguing, the Raw pair say they will always be friends. It'd be important for Owens and Jericho to go overboard here, making everyone sick with their compliments for one another. Then, it'd be more of a surprise if Y2J, for example, was forced by Mick Foley to challenge his best buddy for the WWE Universal title come Roadblock. That's one scenario open to the writing team. Jericho and Owens don't necessarily need to break up, they'd simply be contractually obliged to compete against one another. Coming out, Foley makes such an announcement and reminds Jericho that they have a match to prepare for tonight. Number 4. Roman Reigns beats Sami Zayn, then saves him from Braun Strowman. Much like with the WWE Cruiserweight title, it'd be a shock to see Sami Zayn be The Miz and take the WWE Intercontinental title to another brand. That belt is fine where it is on SmackDown Live. Besides, Zayn would likely be lost in the shuffle a little next to Roman Reigns and the WWE United States title if he was Intercontinental Champ. Losing to Miz at Survivor Series, Sami is feeling blue come Raw. Much to the chagrin of Stephanie McMahon backstage, Mick Foley says he wants to give Zayn a shot at Roman and the US title tonight. That'd perk the babyface right back up. Eventually, he'd lose a hard-fought match to Reigns. It's vital that Sami is allowed to look competitive, and Roman has to acknowledge that he was pushed all the way. Post-match, a fresh challenger for the United States gold would be revealed. Leaving the ring, Reigns could notice that Braun Strowman is trying to ambush Zayn. Sprinting back to the ring, he fends off the big man and the pair are separated by security officials. Then, Reigns takes the microphone and tells management that he wants Strowman next week. Number 3. Stephanie McMahon endorses Brock Lesnar's decision. Called to the ring by a stern Stephanie McMahon, Paul Heyman apologizes profusely for Brock Lesnar's actions earlier on Raw. Looking to excuse himself from any blame, the manager compliments Steph and her family. In the process, he also makes sure to say that Stephanie would never want to see her brother Shane fight Brock Lesnar. Telling Heyman to shut up, Raw's commissioner then gets on her own soapbox. Furious over Shane's apparent ego and the fact he put himself in a match at Survivor Series designed to embarrass Monday Night Raw, she says that he also failed. Still, it's maybe time to rub some salt into those wounds. Sick of her sibling hogging the spotlight, ironically, Stephanie says that she endorses Brock Lesnar's decision to challenge Shane. Incredulous, Heyman can't believe what he's seen or hearing. Asking his boss if she's sure, Paul is met with confirmation from Stephanie. As Heyman walks away, He slyly smiles at the camera. In the end, he got exactly what he wanted, and the wheels can be set in motion for Shane vs. Brock somewhere down the line. Number 2. Enzo Amore and Big Cass become the Raw Tag Team title top contenders following on from an earlier promo involving Sheamus and Cesaro. New contenders for the Raw Tag Team titles would be decided in the next bout. It'd anger the unlikely Irish and Swiss connection if they didn't end up being the next challengers for the New Day's crown. That slot would go to someone else. Shining at Survivor Series, Enzo Amore and Big Cass would have been the ones to win for Team Raw. Overcoming tag teams from SmackDown Live and outlasting their peers on Raw, the animated pair say it's time to take things to the next level. Respectfully, they want a shot at New Day and those shiny belts they've been carrying around. Hastily, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson would come out to stop Enzo and Cass. Bringing issues between both teams to an end for the time being, the babyfaces emerge victorious and are therefore well within their rights to challenge the New Day. If Roadblock featured a babyface versus babyface dynamic for the Raw Tag titles, it'd be pretty interesting. Then, WWE could gauge the popularity of Enzo and Cass when up against the ever-over New Day. Number 1. Seth Rollins and the New Day beat Jericho, Cesaro and Sheamus, announced earlier by Michael Cole, Byron Saxton, and Corey Graves. This six-man tag team effort would be a source of much discussion during Raw. Whereas Cole and Saxton wonder just how Cesaro can hope to get along with Sheamus, Chris Jericho, and Kevin Owens, Graves says it's because he has finally seen the light. Come crunch time, some miscommunication causes Sheamus and Cesaro to once again argue. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins and the New Day get along just fine, laughing at the failure of their opponents to work like clockwork. All the different factors at play here would be building towards a shocking finish. With Cesaro and Sheamus fighting members of New Day outside of the ring, Jericho are left alone with Rollins mid-ring. Jericho holds Seth for code to punch, only for the babyface to duck and Owens to sock Y2J. This allows Rollins to capitalize, hurling Owens from the ring and pinning Jericho. After the match, Owens tries to console his friend. Jericho has none of it though, wondering why his so-called pal punched him. The setup for Roadblock continues.